Welcome back to Hardball. Mitt Romney was seen actually as the almost inevitable nominee just a short time ago. Remember, a couple weeks ago, but the surge of Newt Gingrich has Romney on the defensive, gearing up for a long nomination fight now. Here he was earlier today in an interview with Politico's Mike Allen.
Governor, is Newt Gingrich the front runner in this race?
Yes, right now. I'm not in trouble. I'm in a great spot. Of course I want to win. I'm fighting hard to win. This is not going to be decided in just a couple of contests. I certainly have to be in a position to run the full campaign, just like happened last time with the Democrats.
Well, he drew the comparison. We'll talk about it. The Republican Party questioning the longtime frontrunner seems an awful lot like Hillary Clinton trying to win over Democrats 4 years ago while getting a challenge from Barack Obama. Are there parallels, actually, between the Romney and the Clinton candidacies? Chuck Todd's an NBC. Well, he is the NBC's chief White House correspondent, host of the Daily Rundown on MSNBC. Dan Baltz is the national political correspondent and the best of them all for the Washington Post. Let me go to Chuck. You started this. The parallel, Hillary Clinton experience counts. It's all about having a proven track record, not go for the hot kid or just new to the block. Against comparing that to what's happening right now between Mitt Romney, the longtime candidate, against Newt, who's, even with all his years in the past, looks like he's just off the bench.
Well, and it's an establishment, anti-establishment argument, right? And where the party is today, timing has to do with a lot of this. Throw in the fact that, Mitt Romney had one big negative with a lot of primary voters that sort of defines the other negatives, right? And that is this issue of the health care mandate. For Hillary Clinton, it was that Iraq war vote. She chose to own it. Mitt Romney's chosen to own at least a part of his health care support, that mandate, at least for the state of Massachusetts. And so, but I think the biggest factor here is simply in timing, right? Where the Democratic Party was in 07, 08, they were looking for something new. They were looking for change, not continuity. Where the Republican Party is today, I would say rhetorically, they're looking for somebody who's going to be confrontational, who's really going to take it to President Obama. And even again today, we saw it in Saturday's debate, where I think the most clarifying answer and difference between Newt and Romney had to do with their answer about Israel and this issue of the Palestinians, if they're an invented people. And Mitt Romney used sobriety as describing himself. I'm going to be sort of the steady guy at the wheel. I'm not going to use that hot rhetoric. He said it again today on the trail. Newt Gingrich made no apologies. That's what the Republican Party, base of the party, I think, wants to hear. Confrontational, no apologies.
Dan, do these guys, they do have a responsibility. They're running for president of the United States. This is a pregame, if you will, to what their presidency will build. For Newt to declare war on the Palestinians as a people, calling them terrorists as a people, it doesn't look like he's auditioning to be the traditional American president. Even W recognized that we have a peacemaking role as well as a support of Israel role.
Well, I mean, we've seen this in Newt Gingrich's career time and again, where he will stake out a seemingly outrageous position, and then he will figure out ways to pull back from it. Yeah. He does that for a couple of reasons. One is he knows how to get attention. Another is he likes to be provocative. And then at the same time, he does have often some pretty good political antennae when he gets in a situation like that. And I suspect that you will see him vacillate back and forth or oscillate back and forth in the way he tones that out. But this is what you get with Newt Gingrich, that kind of provocative statement that puts him way out on the edge, and then an effort to try to ameliorate it afterwards.
Let me stay with you for a second and back to Chuck with the same question. I'm thinking of all the paradigms that you and I, Dan, have been through, all these different cycles, all of 4 years. I keep looking, like we all do, I think, for the classic example of what's happening now having happened before. And my question is, do you think this is one of those campaigns where a guy like Mitt Romney can withstand some real explosions for 2 or 3 events, or Hillary, all those, but in his case come back like Mondale came back after some very early defeats?
Well, there is a difference, I think, both in the analogy with Clinton and Romney, and also with Mondale and Romney. In both cases, Clinton and Mondale had deep roots within the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
Mitt Romney doesn't have that. And I think that's a substantial difference. I don't know whether that's going to be decisive in this race, but I think you're dealing with a different kind of candidate when you look at Romney this time. He has been, I would say, a nominal front runner, but never an inevitable front runner, and never a dominant front runner in the way that Hillary Clinton certainly seemed to be in September into October, until she made that mistake at the Drexel debate at the end of October in 07. Romney's got a problem about having struggled throughout the year to enlarge his constituency, and he hasn't been able to do that. It's not as though he's lost a lot of ground the way Hillary Clinton seemed to at a certain point. It's that he's had trouble enlarging the constituency as a frontrunner ought to be able to do.
Chuck, does he have the resources, personal or financial, to fight a long fight as he suggests he's ready to now?
Well, I think he does. And, 4 years ago, Mitt Romney was at a point he could have put in more of his own money in the state of Florida. That was his last stand versus McCain. He narrowly lost, but he chose not to put his own money in. It was sort of like, well, if it was meant to be, then he'd do it to go on to Super Tuesday and really take this fight. If not, he would hold back 4 years. There is no next time for Mitt Romney. Yes. So, I think the likelihood that he would put in his own money, if necessary, is there. And then two, I would say these super PACs really changed the game. I think the super PAC right now, the pro-Romney super PAC is up with over a couple $1 million worth of negative ads in Iowa against Newt Gingrich, and you'll see more of that, I think, in the next few weeks.
Will Florida be his firewall? Well, is that where he'll make his stand, where he puts all the money he's willing to put in the campaign, an immediate campaign in diverse Florida, with the belief that if he loses Florida and finishes out January with no victories really except a squeaker in New Hampshire, he's not really in this game anymore.
See, I think he can keep going. If you look at the calendar, look, I know that is I think the worst case scenario, right, which is he finishes, say, a distant second or worse third in Iowa, goes into New Hampshire, sees his link shrink to single digits, but pulls it out, doesn't win South Carolina, goes to Florida, loses a squeaker. Then what do? Well, the good news for Romney is short term, the calendar then gets a little bit better for him. In 5 days, he can go win Nevada. He's got a couple of other places that should be more Romney than Newt, a place like Maine, so a New England state. So he could put together a couple of wins, regroup, and then make that end of February Michigan, Arizona push where we could be in a whole new ballgame.
Wow, thank you. It's great to have you both on. Thanks, Dan Baltz, so much for coming on Hardball. And thank you, Chuck.